Hello, it's Dr. Mary, and today I want to talk to you in a continuation of the dynamics of relationships. And I know last time I talked about deceit and that type of thing, and today I want to talk about trust because it's one of the things that come up often in relationships. It was one of the big issues with me, and it's one of the things that I often hear my clients, say or talk about or have questions about. And what I want to say about trust is, it's like every day when you wake up. First of all, when you go to sleep at night, you trust that you're gonna wake up. And it's like when you get up, you go into the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you trust that's toothpaste that's coming out of that tube. And like I said, I often hear um, clients when they get into a relationship and they'll say, well, I don't know if I trust him. Or, even if, like I said, in a partnership or friendship, or they're in a friendship and they say, I don't trust them. And the thing with trust, and this is what I always say, is the person that you have to trust the most is yourself. And the reason why I say that, because I said earlier, I had a really big issue with trust. And I didn't even recognize that I had that issue, because I talked about it's things you know, it's things you don't know, but it's things you don't even know that you don't know, that's running your life, that's running you. It's stories. I always have to go back to stories because it's all a story. It all started with the story, and it a lot of times it ends with the story. And I want to talk about my issue with trust. For a long time in my life, I didn't trust people. I didn't trust situations. I didn't even know that I wasn't trusting. I just know that I had these walls built up, and I would never ever really let anybody get close to me. I mean, I had people that, I don't know what I want to call them. They were my friends or associates or whatever, but I wouldn't let them in. I mean, people would talk to me about everything. They would tell me, I've always been the kind of person that people would come and talk to about things and issues, but I would never ever really talk about myself. And I even had people say, Mary, you never tell us anything about you. And I always say, there's nothing to tell. Because I had so many walls built up. And like I said, I always wanted close relationships and close friendships, but it just wasn't there for me. And people tried, and I didn't know what was blocking. I didn't know what was wrong. I mean, sometimes we just don't know. And I remember going to a seminar one time because, like I told you, I've been on this journey for a long time. And I went to a seminar, and it was called The Design Patterns of a Human Being. And it was an entire weekend from Friday until Sunday. And it was very intense. It was all day long. We only got to go home like 10 o'clock at night, and we were right back there at 8 a.m. in the morning. And the facilitator would get up and talk, and then people would get up and talk. And I remember, and I don't know exactly who it was, but somebody got up and they started talking. And all of a sudden, it just felt like, I don't even know how to describe it, like I had this wow wake up moment. And I saw myself as a little kid, maybe 9 or 10 years old. And I may have talked about this before because it was just so important, because it just kept me from being open and free and happy, in relationships, and a lot, and it kept me from allowing people to get close to me. And I have clients sometimes say, and they're married, and they'll say, but I don't let him all the way in. And part of that has to do with trust. But anyway, and I remember all of a sudden I just had this vision, and I saw myself, like I said, maybe 9 or 10 years old, and something had occurred, an incident had occurred, and I told this person something that I didn't want them to tell anybody else. And they told my mother, and I remember coming home and my mother standing in my room waiting for me. And of course, she said some things to me and got on me about it or whatever it was. And all of a sudden I remember saying I'll never trust anybody as long as I live. And it's funny how I think I talked about this earlier, how we make promises or we have things that's running our lives. Some people call it mantras, whatever you want to call it. But from that day on, without me even knowing it, because like I said, as a kid, you make a lot of promises. You say a lot of mantras, or people call it vows, or whatever you want to call it, to yourself. And you don't even recognize that it's still there. But from that day on, I lived my life not trusting. Not even trusting myself. Because, what I later learned is that the person that you need to trust the most is yourself. And as I talk to clients and I talk to people, when you get into any relationship with somebody else, like I said, say whether it be a partner, a friendship, or a business, at work, or whatever, you always have to trust yourself to know that you're going to do what's best for you. But you also have to know what's best for you, because sometimes we don't. And that's partly what relationships are there to teach us. Like I said, relationships are there to teach you who you are and who you are not. What you can deal with and what you can't. And being okay with that. And being true to yourself, true to who you are. That's really what it's all about. And I have clients, especially when they meet new guys, and they're dating, and they're trying to get to know this person, and they'll say to me, well, like I said earlier, Mary, I don't know if I can trust them. And I say, well, the person you need, can you trust you? That you're going to take care of yourself, that you're not going to let that person harm you or do anything that you don't want to be done to you. Do you trust that you won't compromise yourself? Because like I said, a lot of times we do, because we feel some kind of way about ourselves, and we telling ourselves some kind of story of inadequacy. I'm not enough, or like I said earlier, they may not like who I am if I show my true self, if I behave this way, because in another relationship, well, I spoke up and then he left, so now I tell him, oh, I can't speak up in relationships. That's how stories start. Just like my story started with, I can't trust. And without recognizing that story, it follows us, but it's not the truth. Because the thing is, when you're in a relationship with somebody, like I said, whether it be a friendship, just a business partnership, a co-worker, or anything, when you interact with that person, you get to know that person, or that much of them that they want to show you, and understanding that. Because sometimes, like I said, most of us walk around with rose-colored glasses. We are not authentic. We're not our authentic selves, because a lot of people don't trust that they can be that. It's like the book that I read called Why Am I Afraid to Tell You Who I Am? And as I read this book, and I don't remember all the details of the book, but I do remember this, that at the end of that book, it said, why am I afraid to tell you who I am? Because if I tell you who I am, you might not like who I am, and that's all I have. But in understanding, when I read that, I really didn't understand it as much as I do now, but in understanding that everybody's not going to like who you are, but that's okay. You're not going to like everybody for who they are. That's just a part of life. But the thing in any relationship is this. Like I said, a relationship is there to teach you who you are and to teach you who you are not. But it's also there when you in a relationship with another person is to get to know who that person is. And the thing is, I believe Maya Angelou said this, is that when a person shows you who they are, believe them. So you can go into a relationship, trust until they do something that says, I can't trust. And that's it. And you don't have to let it destroy who you are. You don't have to let it, have you feel that, oh, I can't trust anybody. You take everybody at face value. And I've seen trust destroy relationships, destroy intimate relationships, destroy partnerships, friendships, all those things, because I don't trust. I mean, it's like when you're in a relationship. I had a client that was in a relationship, and for some reason she didn't trust a person, so she would do drive-bys by their apartment. What a waste of time. Follow them around. That's a very unhealthy way to live. That's not loving yourself. It's one of the things that I've come to know and learn, and I talk to a lot of my clients about. You are here to learn to love yourself, trust yourself, and listen to yourself. Because, like I said, everything starts and ends with you. You are it. You are it. Life, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, gave you everything you needed to have a beautiful, wonderful life, to have healthy relationships. But it's all the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. I have clients, they get into unhealthy relationships, they compromise themselves. I mean, even abusive relationships. I have a lot of clients that's been in abusive relationships because they feel like, oh, well, they tell themselves a story. Oh, well, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm skinny, I'm too dark, I'm too light, I'm too this, nobody wants me. And none of that is the truth. Remember I said, truth has no story. The truth is, there's somebody out there for you. There's a wonderful friendship out there for you. Everything that you want is out there. But you got to trust and know that it's going to come, and that you don't have to compromise yourself. It's like I have a class that I teach. It's called Dating 101. And in that class, I tell them, and I do it mostly with women, and I tell my women, you don't ever have to worry about getting a man. You can get a man. I promise you that. I've seen it. I don't care how fat you are, skinny you are, black, you got a mustache, a beard, a crooked nose, a scarred up face, one ear, one leg. You can get a man. And I promise, because I've seen everything I just described to you. I've seen women with one leg, with a man chasing them. I've seen, I had a client, a beautiful client, and she was a heavy lady. She weighed about over 400 pounds. She was on an oxygen tank, and she walked with a cane. But she was a beautiful person. She was a client of mine. She would come to me often because she was so depressed and down on herself. And I would tell her what a beautiful person she was. I mean, she was a good friend. She was a very caring and loving person. And so one day she was out and she ran into her old high school sweetheart. And she was so happy. She came to tell me about it. And they started talking again. And he would come and pick her up and get her. And she had a son, and he would come and get her and her son all the time. She would be on the phone with him. I mean, her whole demeanor just changed. And when it was time for her to leave where we were, she didn't know where she was going to go or what she was going to do. And it was other women in the facility where I, go and coach the women, and they would talk about her. Well, who won her? Who is she talking to? I mean, because sometimes people can be very mean. And it would hurt her, and she would come and cry sometimes. And I told her, don't worry about that. And like I said, when it came time for her to go, her high school sweetheart, he came and said, you can come, you and your son, I'm gonna come get y'all. You could stay with me and my mother, because he was in the middle of a divorce. His divorce was almost final, and he had moved in with his mother. And he came to pick her up. She packed all her stuff, and he came to pick her up. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was curious about, how who is this guy? I was curious. Because like I said, she would talk to me quite often. She would come into my office almost every day and talk to me. And I was curious about who was this guy. And so when he came to pick her up, I helped her carry some of her stuff out. And I saw this guy, he was tall, handsome guy. And like when I hear people say, oh, well, I'm too fat, or I'm too black, or I'm too ugly, or I'm too this, that's not the truth. There's a saying that there's somebody for everybody. And you have to know that. You have to trust that. And it all starts with you trusting you. That you're going to do whatever's necessary to take care of you. When I see a situation that's not healthy for me, I trust that I'm going to leave. When I see a friendship that's no longer healthy, I trust that I'm going to leave. And no matter how much I want it, because I could be telling myself some kind of story, oh, well, I can't get anybody else. Or, like I hear people stay in bad relationships, unhealthy relationships, oh, because I can't get anybody else. I mean, it's a bunch of different stories that we tell ourselves, but none of it is the truth. I know people that's been married 5 times, 3 times. So that's not true. It's not the truth. Remember I said truth has no story. And if we could look at that, if you get in a relationship and it don't work out, what's the truth to that is? That relationship just didn't work out. That's it. I don't have to put anything else to it. I don't have to say, oh, it's because I did this or they did. It wasn't meant to work out. Because, the one thing I learned in life is if it's something that's for us, we don't have to work hard. We don't have to force. We don't have to pretend. We don't have to be dishonest. It just flows. And you got to understand that. And like I said, you got to remember that you are enough. You are it. You are all that is. And I'm going to keep saying that until we get there, because I see so many people walking around in so much pain and have, and desire, but they telling themselves so many lies about themselves. You are beauty. You are peace. You are love. You are joy. Add a lot other words to that, and that's who you are. I mean, like I said, once you understand that, and once you trust that and know, life is here to give you what you want. What you looking for is looking for you. And I really and truly have seen that happen in my life. Because once I had that, what I call a wake-up moment or aha moment, and I saw myself saying, I'll never trust anybody as long as I live. See, once, like I said, relationships, things are there to teach you about yourself. And once you discover those things, you can drop it. And once I discovered, I could drop it. I don't have to go around unbeknowing that I don't trust or I can't trust. I can drop it. And now I have wonderful relationships, wonderful friendships with people. which is something I always wanted and didn't even know that I wanted that. Or, I mean, and not even so much as wanting a friendship or a close relationship, but just wanting to trust. And not knowing that all I ever have to do is trust myself in any relationship. That I'm not going to let anybody mistreat me or hurt me, and I'm not going to do that to anybody else. It's always about you being true to yourself. Always. You have to trust yourself because you won't know more than you think you know. And this guy, his name was Santosh Kalmar, and he says, trust starts with truth and it ends with truth. And I'm starting to see in my life that a lot of things starts with truth and end with truth. You know, it's even like when I look back at, you know, a lot of things in my life, it's like even me going to college. I should have never gone to college because my family wasn't a college family. They were a working family. I mean, they all had good middle class jobs, you know. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college before I went to college. I didn't even apply to colleges, to tell you the truth. That's why I say in your life, it's just about you trusting that whatever you need is gonna show up. Whatever is supposed to happen in your life is gonna happen. You gotta know that. And like I said, you don't even have to work hard for it. When you I mean, I know people say, "Oh, you gotta work hard. If you want this or you want that, you gotta work hard," and a lot of people do. But you know, when I look at some of the magical things that happen in my life, like I said, like going to college, I never applied to a college. I never applied to college. But I got a full ride, a 4-year scholarship to a college. All I did when I was in high school, I had a counselor that I used to go to all the time and talk to. And I took, because everybody had to take the ACTs, the SATs, or whatever it was, I took that. And I, you know, I always made good grades, you know, and so when I got ready to graduate, I was going to get a job, just, you know, just like everybody else in my family, you know. And so, but what happened was I started getting all these scholarship offers and letters in the mail. I don't even know where they came from, but I started getting them. And then I was working with this young lady, and she was going to a school in Texas. And somehow my stuff got sent to the school in Texas. Like I said, I got a lot of offers from a lot of different schools because I knew nothing about college, or like I said, even going to college. But I ended up getting a full ride to a college in Texas, and I went. And you know, the funny thing was, like some years later, I ran into my high school counselor. And when I talked, you know, and she talked to me and I told her that I was a doctor, she said, "I always knew you were going to be somebody." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She said, I sent all your stuff off to different colleges. So you see what I'm saying? You just gotta trust and do what you're supposed to do to be true to yourself. And that is to love yourself and listen to yourself. And always know that the life that you want is waiting for you. The love that you want is there for you. The peace, the finances, the joy, whatever it is, it's there for you. You know, and a lot of times I quote scriptures because it's my orientation. I mean, as I tell you a little bit more about me and my story, I grew up going to church a lot. And so, I mean, it's part of what I know. But I quote a lot of things because I read a lot of things. But you know, one of the scriptures that, you know, like I said, it comes to me because, like I said, I was in church all the time and hearing them, and they didn't make sense at the time. It's, you know, the earth is yours and the fullness thereof. Everything that's here is for you, is for us, for all of us, not just for some people, but for you too. And I'm gonna always go back to, you know, just when you start interacting with people, start looking at your story. And I'm going to give you an example of how you do that. It's like something, like I said, if you look at my video about the anatomy of a story, it's like something occurs, and then we have some type of emotion about it, and then a story is created that quick. I like sometimes I mean, because I'm so aware now of my thoughts. Sometimes something will happen, and my mind will create a story so quick. I mean, I'm like, dang, my mind will create a story so quick. Like, wow, look at how quick. And then it's not even the truth. It's just a story. And it'll tell you, oh, you can't trust them. But then, and like I said, sometimes we'll take one statement and we'll put it to life. I mean, one incident happened, and if one person I can trust, but what story did I say? Oh, I'll never trust anybody. So I mean, come on. Everybody's not untrustworthy. Everybody's not deceitful. And like I said, and you'll know who is and who isn't. Because like I said, once you get to know a person, they'll show you who they are. They'll show you who they are. So trust that. That anytime you get into any relationships, people are going to show you who they are. And I mean, we can pretend, but pretend can only go for so long. Just like I said, when you get, you know, once you get married and people be like, well, this is not the person that I was dating. They're not the same, because they, you know, because they'll say, well, when the real them shall come out. Soon, like I said, sooner or later, pretense becomes a lot of work. And you have to give it up. Always trying to figure out what somebody thinking, what they saying, what they doing. That's just too much. You deserve better and more. You deserve all the happiness. And those are some of the things, like I said, in relationships that keep that from you. It keeps you from your peace, from having that love that you want, that intimacy that you want to share with people. And I'm going to always say this when I get ready to end, is to remember that you have to get to the heart of the matter, because the heart matters. Because the Bible says out of it flows your life. And I want to thank you for listening to me. And I'll talk to you next time.